Hello everybody, this is Max, and welcome to Princess Glimmer Plays Terraria. Princess Glimmer is a character from the TV show She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, and now we are playing Terraria as her. And as usual, all of the original music in this video was created by me. I'll be displaying titles to show you what each track is called. We will be playing on Journey mode set to Expert difficulty as always, but this time the world will be created with the Celebration Seed, which gives us access to the Princess NPC right from the start. For this challenge, I am allowing myself to use anything from that Princess NPC, plus anything Hallowed themed, plus the pre-hard mode magic staffs, seeing as Glimmer uses a magic staff in the show. My secondary theme for this playthrough is to use and abuse the complementary magic of Journey mode duplication and the shimmer. I was going to see if I could push the limits of these powers to unlock stuff even more quickly and easily than I ever had before. I think magical duplication powers and shining, colorful liquids fit in with the princess theme, making this challenge a great time to try this out. So, to start things off, I harvest some random stuff from the beach, hoping to get enough of something to duplicate it, and sure enough, I end up with a researchable quantity of seashells. As a reminder, Journey mode allows you to research items once you get a certain set quantity of them, and then generate infinite quantities of said item after it has been researched. The first Journey mode shenanigans of this run will therefore be selling 10,000 seashells to the princess in order to get infinite money right from the start. Using this money, I immediately buy several tasty items from the princess, including the slime staff, heart lanterns, the teddy bear button, and of course a royal tiara and royal scepter for our princess. With night falling, I got to work setting up some houses, but realized I had spent the whole day shopping instead of the usual exploration, and so I had absolutely no gel available to make torches. Luckily, I saw a glow in the distance as my NPC army took down a torch-wielding zombie, giving me access to enough torches to make my initial houses. Now, while I do like making music, I definitely do not use that creative energy on Terraria builds, so you can see my very depressing vertical houses. While I never really vary the build style, I do sometimes pick appropriate materials, so here I used palm wood and tried out the cool-looking palm candelabras for light. After assigning rooms, I realized this still wasn't enough space to allow for more people to move in, such as the important merchant. I completed more houses, at which point the normal merchant did arrive, giving me a mining helmet, piggy bank, anvil, bug net, torches, arrows to use until I got my hands on my first theme-appropriate weapon, mana potions, and health potions. So many useful items from that one merchant. With my early base building and shopping completed, I headed out for some exploration for basic items. My next main goal of the playthrough was to collect a small handful of important things on the way to the shimmer to exploit the full magic of duplication and shimmer working in tandem. Along the way, I enjoyed seeing some quirky world building, such as this very thin cave from which I collected my first worm bin. If you watched my previous Journey mode Terraria playthroughs, you'll remember that the worm bin is an extremely exploitable item with duplication, due to the fact that it very rarely contains gold worms. And of course, with infinite duplication, very rarely actually means guaranteed infinite supply. In this first cave, I also collected a handful of bombs and some iron ore. I located a trident, which would help with water mobility and melee defenses in this phase of the game, where I still didn't have any thematic weapons just yet. On my way back out of the cave, I located my first herb bag, another very useful and exploitable Journey mode item. I continued mining, finding, for instance, some copper ore, before stumbling upon these two glowing rainbow houses. From the first one, I got a silver chandelier and a cloud in a bottle. I also found more copper ore nearby, so I took a moment to set up a field crafting station, getting those bars online as well as creating a star in a bottle with my one fallen star, and having fun with some rainbow torches and a rainbow campfire. The route to the other house yielded some gold and silver ore, and the house itself offered me a duplicate cloud in a bottle. I ascended back out of the cave and stopped at home to check this traveling merchant, from whom I obtained the fun Gi robe and some informational accessories. My bombs had also summoned the demolitionist, so I stopped by his luxurious house to get his wares. I also took the time to make even more houses to ensure that any other friends could still come join us. This is when I learned that the early game stepping stool item actually can come in handy sometimes when placing walls. With that taken care of, I set off into the world again, coming across a desert which I checked for a pyramid, not finding one, before continuing. Next, I found the dungeon, which was quite disappointing, because it meant that unfortunately I would have to traverse the entire world in order to locate the shimmer, which is always on the opposite side of the world compared to the dungeon. Fighting through some nighttime enemies, I continued on my way, finding the snow biome next in line, and then, well, Yes, Deerclops had appeared, and I stood no chance with my current gear. I had to wait for him to despawn before continuing in my exploration, so I took the time to farm cacti and construct some houses. I then waited patiently for the NPCs to move in so that I could buy the desert pylon from the princess. I revisited Deerclops, who was not happy to see me, before waiting patiently again for him to despawn. There are many great advantages to having the princess spawn right away in the celebration seed, and one was that she sells the sandstorm in a bottle accessory if she's in the desert, so I picked that up before continuing on my journey east. Finding the end of the snow biome, I level out some land and construct another set of houses. I continue abusing my time manipulation powers to summon some more NPCs here for the pylon. I continue into the first sort of normal forest section of the world, heading down into some shallow caves once again. I am lucky enough to find a diamond gemcorn tree here, which is a massive step forward for my potential of acquiring diamonds, a resource I definitely needed in order to craft the most powerful pre-hardmode weapon thematically available to me, i.e. the diamond staff. In the nearby rainbow house, I got Hermes boots, which is a nice mobility item early on. I then explored these living trees and the caves nearby and came across this very interesting bit of world generation with this exposed underground area that seems like a small chunk of the world is just missing. My screen darkened as I found myself at the border of the corruption. I was trying to get to the top of this tree to maybe platform across, but fell to my death without a grappling hook to help out. At this point, I had collected enough iron to duplicate it, so I crafted a huge amount of items including minecart tracks, a fishing pole, a stronger bow, buckets, a toilet to use while fishing later, a cooking pot, and some chains. Returning to my snow pylon, I decided that my strategy to circumvent the corruption would be to make a massive floating minecart track. I hopped off once I figured I had gotten past the corrupted area and found myself amongst more living trees. Here I found a second worm bin and a second herb bag, which was fantastic, and I quickly researched all of the items unlocked by those two goodie bags. I found a little more random stuff from chests and some more silver ore nearby as well, before noticing some more eaters flying around, signaling a second corruption area. I did have fun slaying them with my trusty slime minion. It is just super fun to use this thing since normally you're basically never going to get it early enough to actually use as an on-level weapon. This time I decided to just charge through the corruption and try to make it across. I thought my sandstorm in a bottle would be good enough to bypass all the chasms, and if I died, I could just continue my minecart anyways. And I succeeded, I did make it through. At this point, I thought continuing to investigate living trees would be redundant, since I already had so much early game stuff. So I instead spent time constructing houses for a forest pylon, thinking that it was a way for me to sort of save my eastward progress. Another great benefit of the princess is that she is not at all picky when it comes to happiness. All you need is any 3 other NPCs, and she will sell the pylon regardless of whatever biome you are in. Setting back out, I soon found myself in the jungle, the final roadblock on the road east. Unfortunately, these bats caught me looking at the menus, and I was overwhelmed and slain. I considered returning to the forest pylon, but decided to continue my minecart instead. Dropping down, I did make it to the other side of the jungle before the bats got me again. I made my way back over there, found and looted the world's pyramid, and journeyed through the last forest zone, finally arriving at the opposite ocean. I started digging straight down to find the shimmer. Along the way, I made one pit stop to upgrade my pickaxe, and had some minor troubles with too much water in my chute. Next, I found myself in a large pile of silt, which was actually very important for me. You see, given that I had gold in my world instead of platinum, I was not going to be able to craft that diamond staff that I wanted unless I got a bunch of silt for the extractinator. Continuing along, I soon came across a little shimmer pond. The celebration seed makes extra shimmer appear in these small pools dotted throughout the landscape, and it just looked so beautiful. The first thing I always do at the shimmer pool is dig a tunnel beneath it to catch me if I accidentally fall in, so I explored down a little farther below, discovering more very cool looking shimmer puddles, and dug that trench. The next step was, of course, to construct some houses down here, so that I could put the cavern pylon for easy access to this mini biome in the future. And now it was time for some super mega turbo shimmer cheese. The central principle of my shimmer cheese in this playthrough was that instead of collecting the full researchable quantity of certain materials, I was going to instead use a much smaller amount to craft an item that only needs one of itself to research it. And then I could duplicate whatever that item is and decraft it in the shimmer to get an infinite of the initial material that I wanted. Okay, that sounds very wordy, so here's a great example. I didn't have enough gold bars or ore to research the entire quota, but I did have enough bars to craft a gold chandelier, and only one chandelier is needed to fulfill the research requirement, giving me infinite chandeliers, and by decrafting them in the shimmer, infinite gold. This ended up being a funny example of my forgetfulness, because as it turns out I had already researched gold chandeliers from an underground cabin, so I could have simply gotten the chandeliers duplicated from that, but anyway, it shows the general principle. Now, here's a really great one. I tossed in a stack of heart lanterns that I had researched right at the start of the game after buying from the princess, giving me instant access to full life crystals, completely eliminating any of the usual exploration needed to obtain these necessary items. I also got the usual shimmer upgrades, including the vital crystal, ambrosia, and the gummy worm. And next was a real puzzle. Could I turn my single diamond gemcorn into infinite diamonds? I started by shimmering the gemcorn itself into an actual diamond and an acorn. I then spent some time analyzing the recipes from the guide, and unfortunately, there was nothing with a single diamond that I could make except for gemspark blocks. But one gem doesn't make enough gemspark blocks to research, and shimmering them only gives one gem back, which I learned after testing with a sapphire. However, hope was not lost. If I could get just 2 more diamonds, I could craft and research a single magic mirror, and get my infinite diamonds that way. Or if I found a magic mirror itself in a chest, I could get diamonds too. So I turned my focus to crafting and brewing various items to prepare for a search. I made Golden Delight, a gold watch, regeneration potions, iron skin potions, mana regeneration potions, magic power potions, the vital spelunker potions to find those diamonds, night owl potions, builder potions, an amethyst hook, and finally an amethyst staff to tide me over until I got the better diamond staff. This was still a celebratory moment as I had my first on-theme weapon of the run after the slime staff. With my huge amount of new upgrades, I was easily 20 times more powerful than before, and ready to head out to find those remaining diamonds. I hit the buff hotkey and there was a gem cave right next to me. I tunneled over to it and immediately found my diamonds. I crafted the magic mirror, and then noticed a blood moon had started, so I stopped the princess to get a fun weapon upgrade in the Terraria, testing it out to great effect against the skeleton. And then, wasting no more time, I shimmered a ton of mirrors to get my diamonds. I replaced my hook with a diamond one, and set my sights on platinum bars, which would be obtainable from an extractinator. Back at home, I tried out my amethyst staff and Terraria against the blood moon enemies, and I was very pleased by the results with my new weapon upgrades. While fighting off additional enemies, I did a round of crafting to ultimately end up with a diamond robe, a more suitable early game armor for my new staff. Next, I dove back into the mines in search of an extractinator. The wide open caverns of this glowing moss mini biome really helped me cover a lot of ground, and I was able to quickly search several rainbow houses, eventually finding what I wanted in a nearby granite cave. A quick round of extractinating with the silt I collected earlier yielded plenty of platinum, allowing me to craft the coveted diamond staff. I was planning to make more staffs until I got a mythical one, and I actually got it on my second craft. And with all these early game upgrades finally complete, with the most powerful pre-hard mode magic staff in hand, it was time for the first boss of the playthrough, the Eye of Cthulhu, which had just naturally spawned in. And the eye goes down without much of a fight. For the second boss of the playthrough, I thought, why not try the Wall of Flesh? I used some water to create a fun elevator that cut straight through the lava and soon arrived in Hell. I spent a lot of time down here making a lengthy hell bridge and farming enemies to get some banners to help out. I ran all the way back placing bat banners, then ran all the way back again placing campfires, then all the way back again placing heart lanterns, and then again placing star in the bottles. With my supercharged arena finally completed, I challenged the Wall of Flesh and it was going pretty well. Unfortunately, even all these arena buffs were not enough to save me from death against the wall's lasers and hungry. So, more upgrades were in order. First, a better armor set than the diamond robe would improve survivability and mage damage with the staff. You guessed it, it was time for a brief jungle grind enhanced by journey mode shimmer shenanigans. I dove into the underground jungle where I spent a very small amount of time gathering materials, gathering just enough to craft the Amazon yo-yo. This was the perfect item because it needs only one of itself to be fully researched and duplicated, and it's made from all 3 of the stingers, spores, and vines from the jungle, giving me instant access to all of them. I swiftly crafted the full set of armor, and since it's a Shimmer playthrough, decided to toss the pieces in to get the alternative visual version. More potion buffs would surely help as well for both damage and survivability, and journey mode enhanced fishing was the answer. Step 1. Venture into the beehive to obtain, research, and duplicate buckets of honey. Step 2. Find a small pool of lava and collect a few crispy honey blocks. Step 3. Craft and research infinite fishing potions. Step 4. Set the rain to permanently be on, and set the time locked between 4:30 a.m. and 6 a.m. Step 5. Summon 10,000 gold worms with your journey mode magic. Step 6. Create massive lakes anywhere you need to with infinite water buckets. Sit on your toilet and start fishing. My fishing adventures took me here in the caverns for armored cave fishes and endurance potions, as well as the corruption for Ebenkoi and wrath potions. Finally, I visited the jungle for variegated lardfish and the summoning potions. I made a short visit to the underground desert to find another great arena buff to duplicate, the Bast statue. I found that exploring down here was a breeze with my Terragrim, which easily stun-locked the charging antlions. I found a statue in a matter of minutes and departed. Returning to Hell, I killed enough demons to get their banners too, and placed both those, as well as the Bast statues, all over my platform. I challenged the Wall of Flesh again, and my new upgrades did allow me to survive the fight much better. However, my diamond staff was not the strongest weapon, and I ran out of arena space with the boss still at 3k HP. So I extended my arena and summoned the wall for a 3rd time. I had the same experience for the majority of the fight, surviving pretty easily with my gear and slowly dealing damage. I reached the new expanded portion of my bridge, but I had a new problem. Even though I got to this part with full HP, and the boss was at less than 1000 HP itself, I was quickly wombo comboed to death by the significantly faster boss. Due to my lack of knockback immunity, I could not get away after taking 1 hit and ended up taking many hits in a row. On my 4th attempt, I tried to stay farther away during that final phase of the battle, but as you can see, my aim was too poor to deal any damage at that distance, so I ended up being wombo comboed again as the boss caught up. My 5th attempt was similar, even though this time I got him down to 158 HP points. Now, you might be thinking, Max, just keep trying, you are obviously so close, and if you get just a tiny bit better with aiming, you can easily claim victory. But I have never been the type to actually grind a boss and increase my skills. I like playing this game by over-preparing and then smashing the boss to pieces with excessive gear. So instead of practicing more times, I set off to the dungeon to get 2 valuable upgrades. The first was the Bone Glove, guarded by Skeletron. It took kind of a while due to the low damage and slow projectile speed of my diamond staff, not to mention my subpar aiming abilities, but I succeeded and got the Bone Glove in hand. This would be just the extra boost of damage needed to supplement my diamond staff. I descended into the dungeon and spent a long time looking for 3 golden keys so that I could duplicate them and open any of the locked chests without worry. Along the way, I found that the stun-locking Terragrim combined with the longer-range bouncing crossbones was the perfect combination to survive down here against the various skeletal monsters. After a lot of searching, I eventually found enough gold keys and located the Cobalt Shield, which would allow me to keep my distance from the wall and protect me from future wombo combos due to its knockback immunity. And with these final pre-hard mode upgrades, I was ready to defeat the wall once and for all. With the Wall of Flesh defeated, hard mode had begun, and there was one unsavory task that we unfortunately had to do, which was to drown the princess and take her resonance scepter. I'm not the one who designed this mechanic, and we just have to do it in our princess-themed playthrough. Anyway, this fantastic point-and-click weapon creates a powerful pink aura of damage at the cursor's location. In addition, in a normal world, we wouldn't be able to get this until later in the game, meaning it is a super overpowered weapon for us at this point. I headed over to the corruption to test it out, and just look at how easily I can slay these monsters here just by clicking on them. My main goal here was to challenge the Eater of Worlds, which I had delayed until now because of how overpowered this Resonant Scepter was going to be against the multi-segment early game boss. With a few Shadow Orbs smash and a rudimentary platform constructed, it was time for a very fun battle. And yeah, I mean, this thing is way beyond the Eater in progression, and it's perfectly suited for worm enemies, so this was a very short fight. While I was down here, I took the time to break some altars, as well to summon the hard-mode ores into the world. I wanted to get a more satisfying instant kill against the boss with this ideal weapon, so check out this next fight. We technically missed the first head, but it looped around and smacked straight into my magic spell. This boss wasn't just for fun, I actually needed it to progress. With the Demonite and Shadow skills, I crafted the Nightmare Pickaxe, then descended back down to Hell to get some Hellstone. Just a tiny bit, enough to craft one Obsidian Toilet, which I then duplicated and shimmered for maximum Hellstone. After fetching a Hellforge, I was able to get the Molten Pickaxe and begin the obligatory hard mode ore mining session. I used some shenanigans to get Palladium online using Palladium columns. Mithril I mined the normal way, and while I was getting it, I found the Bound Wizard, which was fantastic, giving me the opportunity to enhance my mage build with the Crystal Ball. I made the Mithril Anvil and Pickaxe, then found some Adamantite and crafted the Forge, Pickaxe, Chainsaw, and Magic Armor set. A slime rain had started, and I used the opportunity to build a large arena in this relatively flat space near my spawn point. Here, my Adamantite Chainsaw came in handy. I do love that Journey Mode makes it so much easier to use oft-forgotten tools like the early hard mode chainsaws, which normally I would just ignore. I was killing slimes and flattening terrain when the king finally appeared. And he went down after a very short fight due to my trusty Resonance Scepter. Alright, so I've cheesed 2 pre-hard mode bosses with a post-Plantera weapon. Now let's make some actual progress. First on the list would be wings, so I took down some wyverns, once again an easy task due to my perfectly suited Resonance Scepter. Browsing the wing recipes, I thought that the classic angel wings would be a good choice. Now that hard mode had begun, I have access to a big resource, the Hallow, for items for the rest of this challenge. Given that the angel wings are made with the souls of light from the Hallow, I thought that would be a good choice. I noticed some pink water at the edge of the jungle, a sure sign that the Hallow was near. Digging down, I soon found myself in the crystal caverns. The Resonance Scepter kept me very safe as I gathered crystal shards and souls of light. I wasn't quite done down here and continued my cautious exploration until I located the gelatin crystals, as Queen Slime, the first hallowed boss of the game, was definitely my next target. But I collected many more hardwood materials first. I needed more rotten chunks to be able to craft the destroyer spawners, so I battled in the corruption a bit before meeting my demise. Some hard mode shimmer shenanigans involved researching a single soul of light in a bottle, unlocking the ability to duplicate infinite souls of light. I located the underground corruption as well to get a single soul of night to repeat the same process. With my souls in hand, I thought it would be a good idea to fight the hallowed mimics, a great source of early hard mode hallowed equipment. Though these mimics aren't worm enemies, my Resonance Scepter was still easily strong enough to defeat them. The Daedalus Stormbow is definitely a legend in the Terraria community, and I can amplify its potential with my magic quiver that I had obtained at some point. But I still preferred the Resonance Scepter and stuck with my magic build. My next bit of early hard mode prep involved carving out a little area underground to make an artificial crimson. Although I chose corruption for this world, I wanted ichor for various purposes, so I excavated a little box, planted crimson seeds everywhere, and accelerated time to 24x with my journey mode powers to enhance the spread effect. I was very lucky with a fast Ichor sticker spawn, and used some shimmer shenanigans with Ichor arrows to turn that single enemy into an infinite resource. Then, in order to get the Witch Doctor to move in so I could get ichor flasks later, I had yet another pre-hard mode boss to take down, the Queen Bee. I'm not even going to play the boss music this time because the Resonance Scepter made such quick work of her. My preparations for the hard mode boss rush were almost complete. I mined some pearlstone, got interrupted by a goblin army, remembered to craft my angel wings, laid down the Pearl Stone in my arena to convert it to Hallow, and at long last, it was time to progress with a fight against the first Hallow boss, Queen Slime. I think the Resonance Scepter wasn't the best weapon for this fight, but also was not the worst by any means. At the end of the day, being able to click anywhere on screen and instantly deal damage is pretty effective against everything, even if it doesn't stay in the lingering aura. Since a lot of her slime minions stayed stationary on the ground from time to time, the Scepter was able to eliminate them quite easily as well. I fought her a couple more times in order to get the 3 treasure bags for research, then opened the bags to receive my lovely upgrades. I equipped her Crystal Assassin armor set and Gelatinous Pillion. I always like having one of the slime mounts as my mount for quick descents during aerial fights. Most exciting of all, I got my first and only minion of the run, the awesome Blade Staff. I am a huge fan of summoning in this game, and the Blade Staff is always a great option. Just look at them go against these pixies. With maximum value extracted from the Queen's bags, it was time for the next boss on the list, one that will certainly be easy prey for the Resonance Scepter, the Destroyer. I refought the Destroyer multiple times in order to unlock research on its very important drop, the Hallowed Bar. With these powerful and on-theme Hallowed bars, I created Summoner-based Hallowed armor, a Hallowed repeater in case I ever wanted it, and the Durendal Whip. That's right, I was pivoting to a Blade Staff Summoner build. Technically, this is probably a lot weaker than just sticking with the Resonance Scepter, but I just couldn't resist my chance to play as a summoner with access to both an on-theme minion and on-theme whip. It was the perfect time to transition. Anyway, we now had 2 hard mode bosses down and many more to go. Terraria might be described as mostly a boss rush after early hard mode, and that's even more the case with self-imposed restrictions like this challenge. The only upgrade I took care of before resuming the boss rush was a bit of reforging, with warding as the choice for accessories. Previously, I had crafted Ichor Flasks to enhance my whip, knowing that getting enemies down to 0 defense was essential for the low base damage of the Blade Staff. And now, let's see how the blades do against the remaining mechanical bosses. My trusty blade minions easily took down those 2 mechanical threats, and we had advanced to the jungle stage of hard mode. I briefly considered various post-mech options that used Hallowed bars, but discarded those ideas, thinking I could save them for another time when they seemed more on-theme, beyond just being made with Hallowed bars. Wasting no more time, I raced off to the jungle, hunting for life fruits and the Plantera bulb. I located the bulb conveniently situated along this minecart track, and then spent quite some time excavating a large arena. Because Plantera has no spawn item, instead being summoned from the naturally occurring bulbs, I like to over-prepare for this fight with an enormous arena, hoping to defeat her first try and move on. Along the way, I had the idea of making little shelves for life fruit, but that idea didn't really pan out and I destroyed them later. I did find my first life fruit while excavating. At a few points during the process, I was brought down to very low HP. I found it somewhat difficult to avoid the jungle enemies once the arena had been opened up and projectiles were no longer blocked by mud. After a detour to defeat the pirate invasion, I spent some time fishing in my surface Hallow to get life force potions, scoured the jungle for the remaining life fruits, finished my arena, shimmered the Aegis fruit, converted my equipment back to magic to buff the Resonant Scepter, upgraded my wings to the jetpack, and was finally ready to take down Plantera. With Plantera out of the way, I headed straight for the temple. I had a slightly unfortunate incident trying to get in with this lava and water everywhere, but was able to clear the way eventually. Entering the temple, I employed my typical cautious approach, trying to disable all traps as I went along. We were now at the point of progression where I was actually supposed to be able to obtain the Resonant Scepter, so I was curious about how it held up at its intended stage of the game. I found it quite effective against the lizard enemies, although the temple blocks occasionally interfered with my aim. I do like wearing the Spore Sack in the temple. I like how Plantera gives you this accessory right when you need it most. When I arrived at Golem's chamber, I disabled the traps, illuminated the area, sealed the door, leveled out the floor, placed my arena buffs, and put my Resonant Scepter to test against the boss it's supposed to be on level for. Although it wasn't quite a free fight, I still took him down first try. I was really enjoying this weapon for such a long time and found it quite effective up to this point. Returning home, I found myself in a Blood Moon Werewolf Knight combo, and so I battled werewolves until I obtained the Moon Charm, needing it later for the terrific Celestial Shell. I had killed a moth right after defeating Golem and upgraded to Butterfly Wings, which are so beautiful by the way, before turning my attention to late game prep. There was an important boss standing in the way of me and my final endgame gear, the Empress of Light. Unfortunately, my Resonant Scepter was now slightly out of date, so I was gonna have to try to defeat her with my Resonant Scepter. There was nothing else available, either Princess or Hallow themed, that would make the fight easier or help. It was up to my Resonant Scepter to take her down. One thing I could do was prepare my arena better. Lately, I've enjoyed using asphalt when fighting the Empress, so I crafted up a stack of it and laid down a strip at my arena. I made another modification, which was removing the platform. I didn't want it slowing me down as I tried to descend to the asphalt. I just left a few floating platforms to hold my arena buffs. With nothing else to do, I summoned the Empress. My first attempt was going well at the start. With the point-and-click activation of the Resonant Scepter, I was able to get consistent damage as long as the boss was on screen. I had trouble damaging her during the Sundance attack, which was a shame as that is often a prime time for weapons like the Venus Magnum or the Terrorblade. I did enjoy using the asphalt to escape the Everlasting Rainbow, although it seemed that I needed more room. Anyway, I held on for the entire first phase, but second phase was a bit harder. A barrage of her new attacks pushed me to the left of my arena, and I got hit a bunch of times trying to get back to my asphalt. Unfortunately, I was overwhelmed and this Everlasting Rainbow combo got me. I thought I needed more space to be able to use my asphalt more, so I excavated a large portion of the nearby hill and extended my asphalt strip. Then I realized that I made it one block too high, mined it back up, and redid it properly. I thought this little bit of extra space would be the mobility edge I needed to escape those Everlasting Rainbows. There were also times during the fight where I felt that my damage was inconsistent, and that perhaps a quick switch to the Ranger class would help out. My best on-theme option for Princess Glimmer was the Hallow Repeater with Holy Arrows. I switched out my armor and accessories, fighting a quick Corruption Mimic to get the Stalker's Quiver, and reforged my Repeater. Unfortunately, none of this was worth the time at all, as my damage still ended up quite pitiful even when hitting every shot, which I definitely was not doing most of the time, especially when my aim issues were exacerbated by the extra small boss size from the Celebration world. So, sadly, the Hallow Repeater was not the answer, as it was multiple tiers behind our current level of progression at this point. This attempt took forever and was doomed to fail, but a side effect of my pitiful damage was that I had the opportunity to practice dodging for several minutes, which surely would help me in future attempts. Recognizing the inadequacy of the repeater, I switched back to the Resonant Scepter, but died during second phase again. I needed some kind of upgrade, so I turned my attention to accessories. I descended to Hell to farm for mimics. This turned out to be a bad idea, as I was having trouble spawning them. Recently, I've seen some advice in other YouTube videos to farm mimics on the surface by digging a trench just a little bit into the underground layer to spawn surface chest mimics, so I'll definitely have to try that next time. But ultimately, I did obtain the two items I was seeking, the Cross Necklace and the Star Cloak. With the Cross Necklace and Star Cloak, I made the Star Veil, which would help me evade a second or third hit after taking damage once, due to the increased iframes. Next, I needed a Band of Regeneration, which was located easily with Spelunker Potions and my fast late game mining speed, in order to craft the Charm of Myths, which would greatly aid my HP recovery and healing throughout the fight. With my defenses shored up by these accessories and my dodging skills increased from the first couple fights, I began my next attempt. And sure enough, my two new accessories worked exactly as planned. I rarely took multi-hit damage, and my recovery was so effective that I was very close to max HP the entire time. Now I faced the classic journey mode conundrum. Should I save this bag to research and fight her again with no upgrades? Or should I open the bag and use the contents to aid my future grind? For the Empress, I think the choice is clear. Open the bag! While the weapon was more of a 50-50 on if it would be useful for future Empress battles, the guaranteed storing insignia accessory made opening the bag worthwhile. Fortunately for me, my bag contained the awesome Night Glow, meaning my gamble had paid off. Since I was already equipped with magic gear, I was able to test it out right away. Unfortunately, I made a slight error dealing with this Martian probe. I did not yet realize that the Night Glow ignores the probe in terms of homing, and it got away before I could switch to another weapon. So I had to fight the Martians. I decided to use this as a test of the Night Glow's capabilities, and I was very satisfied. It was immensely satisfying to simply hold down the attack button and watch my homing, piercing magic blasts tear everything to shreds while I flew overhead. I also appreciated its piercing when the saucer appeared and my damage was multiplied across its different components. I did end up dying due to my general lack of experience fighting saucers, but returned for revenge fairly quickly. With the event over, I noticed that I'd picked up the Skutlicks mount, actually for the first time in my life. Although it wasn't on theme, I had an absolutely fantastic time testing it out against the Old One's army, eventually getting overwhelmed in Wave 4, but I had never intended to win anyway. With that fun activity done, I had a couple of grinding sessions to complete next. First up was the solar eclipse, where my night glow once again proved very effective. I was starting to consider this my new favorite weapon for events due to just how easy it is to use. Very quickly I found my desired item, the moonstone. To pair with my moonstone, I needed the sunstone, so a golem grind was in order. I made my way down and navigated the temple, reaching Golem's chamber and defeating him very easily with the spectacular night glow. Once again, the piercing and the extremely precise homing of these projectiles were well suited for Golem, who has multiple targets during the first phase of the fight. A couple more kills later and I had his bags researched, giving me access to the Destroyer emblem and the desired Sunstone. I now had 3 of the 4 components for the Celestial Shell, and after a slightly longer and more annoying second Solar Eclipse grind, I obtained the Neptune's Shell and in turn, crafted the Celestial Shell. Before moving on to the end of the game, I had a final grind to complete, the Empress of Light herself. I wanted the remaining weapon drops as well as her wings. The Night Glow was great here with a way higher damage per second compared to my Resonance Scepter, making this grind a breeze. With her duplicated bags, I obtained all the weapons and the wings. After a quick round of reforging, I had pretty much researched the maximum power level for this playthrough. The Lunatic Cultist was next on the boss rush list. The Night Glow and Stellar Tune both proved effective against the Cultist. And now, for a montage of me fighting the pillars. The lunar events were completed with ease thanks to my powerful equipment and Empress weapons. The impending doom was approaching, and soon, my first attempt at Moonlord had begun. I used my Night Glow and Stellar Tune, but soon reached low HP. I recovered back up to half, but some poor maneuvering got me cornered by a True Eye laser, quickly leading to a rookie mistake with the main Death laser, and an untimely demise against the hand. My second attempt was going much better. I was dodging fairly well and using my Night Glow to ensure consistent damage without needing to get in close with the Stellar Tune. Once the True Eyes came out though, I started taking hits from their lasers. Then, when I tried to keep my distance to avoid the lasers, my Night Glow attacks were dissipating without dealing any damage, as I was too far away from the top eye. Being unable to dodge effectively at close range, I died. So, magic weapons out, eventide in. I made a glowing mushroom biome on the surface, constructed a house for the truffle, purchased the auto hammer, and crafted shroomite armor. My Stalker's Quiver came out of retirement, and I also swapped in the Worm Scarf, thinking it would help mitigate my main issue, the single-hit, high-damage lasers. Finally, I brewed super healing potions for longevity and archery potions for damage. These straight-firing, long-distance rainbow arrows were perfect to solve my problems against the Moonlord. I briefly considered venom arrows, but thought I would miss due to the gravity arc, so rainbows it is. And the final fight against the Moonlord began. And with that, Princess Glimmer has conquered Terraria. In conclusion, this was absolutely one of my favorite challenges so far. First of all, in terms of the weapon restrictions of magic staffs, princess stuff, and Hallow stuff, my favorite aspect was the contrast between segments where I felt underpowered and segments where I felt overpowered. In pre-hard mode with the diamond staff, I felt much weaker than normal, so it was very rewarding to win against the wall of flash, despite the odds. Then, in early hard mode with the resonant scepter, it was so fun and satisfying to simply shred everything, especially the destroyer. Then, against the Empress, I got to experience the underpowered phase again, and actually had to quote-unquote get good just a little to defeat her with the suboptimal weapon. And then in the endgame with the Empress's drops, I once again experienced the feeling of being overpowered, making the final stage easy. It was fun to experience these different phases, and it kept the playthrough feeling fresh throughout. In terms of my extreme use of shimmer shenanigans, I did enjoy pushing the limits in this video's run, but I don't think I will continue to overuse this mechanic in future playthroughs, even when I do play in Journey Mode. Over the years, I have learned more and more about how to optimize Journey Mode plus Shimmer, and my goal this playthrough when taking it to the extreme was to really think about what aspects of these powers actually made the game more fun for me versus less fun for me, and sort of decide once and for all how much I wanted to use these mechanics in the future. For example, I'm probably always going to duplicate potions and boss spawners, because I'm just not really interested in herb farming, and I really want to be able to attempt the bosses as many times as needed, without the added stress of running out of potions and then having to grind again. But I don't want to use the powers to skip entire phases of the game, like how I completely skipped hard mode mining in this playthrough by cheesing the acquisition of skulls through the soul in a bottle items. To summarize, I am totally happy with this playthrough and had fun cheesing so much with Shimmer Shenanigans, but that's going to be a one-time thing, and I'm going to be much more judicious with Journey Mode in the future, using it to skip things I want to skip, or not using it whenever I want to enjoy a certain part of the game. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed all of my original music, and I hope to see you next time. We just got a new update, so I will certainly be playing more runs that use the new stuff. I'm particularly interested in the vast quantity of new secret seeds that will allow for themed challenges to be even more themed than ever before.